It all began with a mirror. It wasn't some ancient, cursed heirloom with a dark past whispered in hushed tones. No, it was just a cheap, rectangular mirror. The kind you find tucked away in the dusty corner of a thrift shop. Emma bought it because her new apartment felt empty, a little too bare for comfort. She thought the mirror would add a touch of light, make the living room feel a bit more spacious. Or at least, that's what she told herself at first. The first night it was hung on the wall, she noticed something odd, a little flicker in her peripheral vision. Every time she walked past, it felt like her reflection was just a split second too late to catch up, as if it was waiting for her to look before it decided to move. She brushed it off, blaming exhaustion, long hours at her new job, the poor lighting in the old building, her own overactive imagination. Everyone sees weird things when they're tired, right? But then, the reflection blinked. It was late, well past midnight, and she was rubbing her weary eyes. She glanced up and saw it, her reflection, standing perfectly still while she was in motion. Then, without any warning, the reflection blinked. A single, slow, deliberate blink. Emma froze, her hand still raised to her face. She stared into the mirror, her breath caught in her throat. Her own reflection stared back, the same wide eyes, the same messy bun, but the moment stretched on, feeling wrong. The air in the room grew thick and cold. Finally, she managed to whisper, "What the hell?" The reflection smiled. A smile that didn't reach its eyes. A smile that wasn't hers. The next morning, she tried to rationalize it. It had to be a trick of the light, a waking dream. She even laughed about it while on the phone with her sister. "Maybe I'm just going crazy," she said, trying to make it sound like a joke. Her sister chuckled on the other end. "You've been living alone for too long. You know how mirrors can play tricks on your eyes." Emma managed a weak smile and hung up the phone. But when she turned back toward the mirror, something small but utterly impossible had changed. In her reflection, the living room behind her was darker, as if it were illuminated by a single, dim bulb instead of the bright morning daylight streaming through her windows. She stepped closer, her heart starting to hammer against her ribs. The air felt colder near the glass, a strange, unnatural chill. For just an instant, she noticed her reflection's pupils didn't quite match hers. They lagged behind her own, widening just half a second later. That was it. That night, she couldn't stand to look at it anymore. She grabbed a thick blanket and draped it over the mirror, hiding it from view. The days that followed were quiet. The apartment felt calmer without the mirror's unsettling presence. But Emma couldn't relax. Every creak of the old floorboards, every shifting shadow in the corner of her eye made her glance nervously at the covered shape on the wall. The fear was bad, but by the fifth night, something worse had taken hold. Curiosity. It gnawed at her, a relentless need to know. She had to prove to herself that it was all just in her head. With a deep, shaky breath, she walked over and pulled the blanket down. The mirror was completely black, not reflecting the room, not reflecting her. It was like staring into an unlit, empty window to nowhere. Her blood ran cold. Then, slowly, shapes began to emerge from the inky blackness. It wasn't her room. It wasn't any room she recognized. A faint flickering light revealed an old, dilapidated wooden hallway with peeling wallpaper. And at the far end of that hallway, something was moving. Someone, a figure, crawled forward on all fours, its joints bending at unnatural, sickening angles. Its hair was long and stringy, obscuring its face. Emma's throat closed up. She couldn't scream. She stumbled backward as the thing dragged itself closer and closer to the other side of the mirror. It finally lifted its head, its pale face filling the glass, and it smiled with her face. At that exact moment, the lights in her apartment flickered and died, plunging her into total darkness. When the power came back on a few seconds later, the mirror was normal again. Or, almost. Because her reflection wasn't moving. Emma stood frozen, then hesitantly waved her hand. Nothing. Her reflection remained perfectly still, its head tilted slightly, that same, small, chilling smile playing on its lips. Her own skin crawled as she whispered, "Move." The reflection blinked once and then slowly pressed its hand against the glass from the inside. A faint crack appeared, spreading through the mirror like ice, fracturing under pressure. Emma's pulse thundered in her ears. She fumbled for her phone, desperate to call someone, anyone. But the screen glitched, freezing on her own panicked face, reflected in the dark screen. And that reflection, it was smiling, too. That's when the true horror sank in. It wasn't just a mirror. It was every reflective surface. The black screen of the TV, the polished side of the kettle, the dark window at night. She would see them. Flashes of movement that didn't belong to her. Reflections breathing when she held her breath. Faces lingering for a heartbeat too long after she turned away. She stopped looking. She avoided her own reflection at all costs, showering with her eyes closed, dressing in the dark, until the night she came home and found her bathroom door creaked open. The light was off. The medicine cabinet mirror inside faced the hallway perfectly, and from where she stood, frozen in the doorway, she could see her reflection waiting for her in the dark. Its head was cocked to one side, its lips parted in a silent, predatory grin. It slowly lifted its hand and beckoned her to come closer. That was the last straw. Emma ran. She grabbed a bag, threw in whatever she could reach, and fled her apartment without a single look back. She never returned. 2 weeks later, a new tenant moved in, a young man named Chris, the landlord, eager to fill the vacancy. Didn't mention why the last tenant had left in such a sudden, frantic hurry. To Chris, the place was perfect. It was quiet, clean, and cheap. And there was a mirror on the living room wall, curiously covered with a dusty sheet. He chuckled to himself, probably thinking the last tenant was in the middle of redecorating. He walked over and pulled the sheet down. For a second, the mirror stayed completely black. Then the image flickered to life, showing his reflection. Everything seemed perfectly fine. He smiled, ran a hand through his hair to adjust it, and for the briefest, almost imperceptible moment, someone else smiled back from the mirror. Someone standing just behind his shoulder. It wasn't him. It was a woman. Thank you so much for joining me on this chilling tale. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more unsettling content. Stay safe and always be careful what you bring into your home.